for December the 13th, 2024, we talk about the games we played for Duckstream, Withering Rooms, S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, Heart of Chernobyl, and much more. Welcome to Level 525. My name is Kole Ross.
I'm Dennis Furia.
I'm Moxie.
And you are listening to The Level. It's a podcast for people who love video games. Welcome back. We are post Duckstream.
Yeah, huh?
Yeah.
So Kole, you are just a
bundle
of energy right now.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty wiped out, as would probably be expected after 2 days of talking for about 11 hours straight.
Yes.
I didn't really have a voice yesterday. I couldn't really take a break because I had to down and mainline as much Cyberpunk as I could. So it was still, 8 hours sitting at the computer there, roughly. Yeah. But I'm, that is all worth it for the cause, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, was that enough to make you hate Keanu Reeves?
No, I like the way that I like the arc of Johnny's characters, of the character of Johnny's likability. Listen to the Watch Out for Fireballs episodes to hear us talk more about that. Yeah, so that's done. That's behind me. I still have more assignment play to get done. I wish I could sleep, but I can't. So we're right here. However, we did raise, right now it's looking at ballpark about 31,000 for Transactive. That's going to help just a whole bunch of trans kids. And I could not be...
Yeah, that's really sweet.
I could not be happier and more proud of our community for chipping in so consistently, for helping us hit those goals, and also for being entirely cool in chat. Something that I worry about, given the way that everything is falling apart. Every year it's okay, this might be the year we have to deal with someone coming in and being shitty. Maybe not directly part of the community or whatever, but drive-bys and stuff, and just, it's never really happened, which is nice. Didn't happen this year, even with all the shit. It was just a real fun and positive environment across all of it. So, yay.
Yeah, the vibes formed a strong enough ward to keep things cool.
Yes. So thanks so much, everybody. That's really all that I've been up to, was getting ready for doing Duckstream and then recovering from Duckstream, kind of. So I will throw to other people. Moxie, what are you up to?
Not a whole heck of a lot. Had a goth night down in Birmingham last weekend, which was a lot of fun. Was their Krampusnacht celebration.
Okay.
So lots of people dressed up in sexy Krampus goth outfits, which was pretty entertaining.
Okay.
And then on Sunday, we had our group of people got together and watched Die Hard, because, it's not Christmas until you watch Die Hard.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that was fun. Also learned that there is a Die Hard children's book, which I highly recommend.
Okay. How does it handle the profanity and the violence?
Kind of in between. There definitely is violence, but it's not so it is aping a very specific children's book illustrator. I recognize it. I don't recall which one it actually is, but it's one I've seen before.
Okay.
But so it has the look of a children's book, so it's not there's just, blood and gore and stuff.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to think if it actually had how much profanity it has, but still, I mean, Die Hard's what, PG-13, right?
I don't know. I mean, there's one very famous invocation of the MF word, which I immediately feel ridiculous. He does say motherfucker very prominently.
It's before the one
is
fuck
fuck
rule,
even a curse, even profanity anymore?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just, I guess I'm not saying it out. I'm not asking that question out of concern for the children. It's more just, I wonder what the decision making behind that was.
If you're concerned about the children, my now 4-year-old a couple days ago was running up the stairs and stumbled and just blurted out, "Fuck!"
Okay.
I was like, "Ooh, Daddy's got to watch his language a little more."
Yeah, maybe.
So, the children already have gotten to it. The time to fuck is very low in today's day and age. At least with me as a parent, apparently.
Yeah.
I think. Actually, though, on that subject, one of my favorite things from the movie is the fact that, while he does very, like you said, very prominently say motherfucker or Mr. Falcon, either one, he also very prominently calls one of the dudes a jerkweed.
Okay. I'm not quite sure what that means.
I don't know, but it's just funny to see that in the movie, because it seems like if I just heard that, I'd be like, oh, this is a movie where they weren't allowed to curse, so that's what they used instead. Except obviously it isn't.
So milder words used in a certain way can be surprisingly effective. Like dork is one of my favorites. It's got the k of fuck. It's also just very dismissive if someone's trying to be like edgy and whatever. It's immediately disarming to them versus getting outraged at them. Just be like, whatever, you dork.
It is a good tactic, I think, to use diminutive language against somebody who is trying to be all So I can agree with you there. That's why I like Dingus quite a bit.
Dingus is excellent. Yes.
Nice. So Goth Knight and Die Hard.
As a side note, I dropped a link to it the book on Amazon, just if you want to see what it looks like.
I was doing a search on that as well. He's got blood. John McClane has mysterious wounds. Yeah. Let's see. Dennis, how about you? What have you been up to?
I mean, other than teaching my 4-year-old the F word, what could be relevant? No. So, my 4-year-old turned 4 this week. So Barrett had a birthday and a birthday party. And it was a little free shelter in a local park that we went to, and it had climate control. So it was not brutal.
Ooh.
And even though there was a nice heated shelter to be in, all the kids wanted to play outside nonstop the entire time.
Right.
One of those, I don't know what I expected.
Kids are immune to temperature.
They really freaking are.
I mean, when's the last time you've seen a toddler on fire?
I mean, you rarely see it nowadays.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This
says a lot
so
about
that was
society.
A good time. the toddler fire index is of course one of our leading economic indicators. But yeah, so we spent all this time being like, oh, here's a big piece of paper that you can draw dinosaurs on, and here's a mini obstacle course. None of it got used. They all just rampaged around outside in the freezing, biting cold. But yeah, he's 4 now, and that's wild. And I keep on wondering when they're going to stop getting older, but it keeps on happening. So I got to figure that one out. No one told me they would keep on growing like this.
That's kind of a thing about them. It's one of the defining features of children.
I bet, you know what I bet it is one of those, like, you know, your fish is going to grow to the size of the aquarium kind of things.
Oh, so like
I'll start keeping them in cages, and
if you just raise yourself up a little bonsai child.
Yes.
Yeah, you can grow them into a square. Yeah.
I mean, they've got me as a parent. They're going to be a bit of a square.
Well, okay.
So what can you do? That's me this week.
Nice. We don't have Ben because still recovering from his from back stuff.
He suplexed a train.
Yes. And that goes against modern medical advice. So yeah, we're just rocking it 3 style. And we, got to talk about games and stuff. And to do that, we needed to do the regular kind of show, what with the grind, the multiplayer, and the end boss. And why don't we get started with
the grind?
The grind, where we talk about the games we've been playing over the past period of time or so. Do you mind if I go first, just to talk about Duckstream stuff?
Yeah,
and
I feel that will be a significant portion of all of our reports here.
Yes, yeah. So I figured it would get y'all's thoughts on the multiplayer stuff that we played. So my big event for Duckstream was to replay the Resident Evil 2 remake, but with a whole bunch of mods. I called it Resident Evil 2 Too Many Mods. And it was pretty ridiculous. Like, I spent a fair amount of time trawling Nexus mods, looking for basically anything that I thought would be entertaining. And so like the base, I'll talk about the base like gameplay mod that I did, but like all of the aesthetic stuff was just a joy. Playing as Heather Mason from Silent Hill 3 instead of Claire, having Leon be Squall from Final Fantasy 8, and also having all of the survival knives be gun blades. Like,
can you shoot them?
No, unfortunately, but they do have a longer reach than the regular knife,
okay. Well,
which is good. So like all that was fun. Additionally, I don't know if either of you were there to see it, but Mr. X, the big trench coat guy who chases you around the entire game, modded him to be RoboCop.
Yes, I did get to see that.
Yes. His footsteps were squeaky noises, like squeaky like tub toy noises.
Yeah, rubber ducky.
Yeah, like a rubber ducky kind of thing. And the music that plays when he is in pursuit was the theme song for Katamari Damacy, Katamari on the Rocks. So you would just be like trying to solve a puzzle or whatever, and you would hear na 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 squeak 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 squeak.
Master stroke.
Oh yeah, so like just going through those mods and picking them out just to maximize what would be the goofiest was a real good way to go.
What was the like normal zombies were like blocks of styrofoam or tofu or something?
Tofu. It's canon.
Yeah. I did make every zombie tofu.
Okay.
So for people who are unaware, Resident Evil 2, the original one, had kind of like this challenge mode where you played as a joke character called Tofu. It was actually just the way that they rendered your hitbox when they were doing testing stuff, but they thought, oh, wouldn't it be funny? Like, it kind of looks like it's tofu. Let's call it that. Let's, when people are playing as Tofu, all you have is a knife, it's supposed to be like super hard challenge run kind of thing. They, of course, brought that back for the remake, but that means you have this model in there that is kind of rigged to any of the humanoid animations and stuff. So the mod that I downloaded turned all of the zombies into tofu, which is very funny because all of a sudden you have what everybody was calling filing cabinets just like toddling around after you,
Toddling is a good word for it.
Yeah, because like they moved, and I described it like they moved like Homestar Runner characters, like the way Marzipan like will move and pick stuff up, So and then there's all this other stuff where there are like decorative zombies laying about. And the ones that are never meant to get up and attack you, those aren't rigged to animate, so they are not tofu. And there are also characters who get bitten and then eventually turn, and when they're the zombie models, they turn into tofu, which completely changed the ecology of the the tofu virus.
Yes, of course.
Into like, okay, like there is zombification as like the middle step, but when you are fully zombified, that is when the tofu has taken over, and then you become that.
That makes sense.
Like it's basically like zombie Crimson Head, which you never see in this game, and then it goes into tofu. So that was very fun. The base gameplay mod that I put in was a higher difficulty mode called City of the Dead, which just puts so many enemies in. Additionally, it's supposed to be like, okay, standard in City of the Dead is supposed to be as difficult as like the hardcore, and et cetera, et cetera. It was so wild that I eventually just fell back to using infinite ammo guns, and even then, it was very difficult to stay alive because you would just get so crowded out by everything. It also changed up some of the sequencing for some of the puzzles, and remember how I said we have RoboCop coming at you? Well, in City of the Dead, there are two Mr. X's, therefore there are two RoboCops chasing you around. When I was playing, so like it was a real big surprise, to hear like the squeaking in front of me and hear the no 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 no, and then like, wait a minute, is that squeaking I hear from behind me? Pincer attacked by two RoboCops. So it was fun. People were into it, but that was only the first day that I streamed, and I knew that it was going to be kind of a short, it wasn't going to be 24 hours worth of gameplay. So instead, I was like, all right, well, Resident Evil 2 mods. What mods are available for the original Resident Evil 2, the 1998 version? And there is a very famous pair of mods for Resident Evil 2 called Kendo's Cut.
Okay.
So for anybody unfamiliar...
Is that where you have a sword?
No. For anybody unfamiliar, toward the beginning of both of the A routes in Resident Evil 2, the classic one, the first like safe place you go to is a gun store that is owned by a guy named Kendo. Okay, kind of like a schlubby, like just a schlubby blue collar kind of guy, right? And in the game, as is canon, zombies break through the window of the store and eat Kendo, and you have to run. Kendo's mod presupposes, what if Kendo used the shotgun he was holding to shoot those zombies and then ran away? And then was present throughout the rest of the game in very strange ways. So like you'd be walking through like the the second floor east hallway where crows are supposed to burst through the window, and then who comes bursting through the window? Oh, it's Kendo. And then he gets up and runs away. Kendo is present in cutscenes, and the cutscenes are hilarious because Kendo only has like 6 or 7 lines in the entire game, and no new dialogue is recorded for it. So they basically just chop and screw his dialogue to be kind of vaguely appropriate for the for whatever situation he is put into, and his presence gets even more wild throughout the game and starts messing with the canon. I don't want to give like any spoilers for it because I recommend you go play this. It's very, it's quite short. It's as short as the original Resident Evil 2, but I will say it ends with Kendo becoming unstuck in time, and trying to warp around 2 timelines in order to stop the outbreak from happening. And this leads into the second mod, which is Kendo's Cut Uncut. which starts with all of the like wacky time weirdness from the end of the first one, and then it goes from there. To the point where there are zombies whose like their entire texture around all of them it is just Kendo's head, like, you know, so it's like the face and the hair and stuff. At one point, you're trying to push around huge crates, and they are huge, just models of Kendo's head. Yeah, and then also there are quantum zombies who are Kendo but in black and white, who warp in, and there's a special quantum gun that you have to that you find.
Okay, I wondered what that was.
Yeah, and the ammo for the quantum gun like floats and rotates like it's a Doom ammo pickup.
Nice.
It's really it's neat. I wasn't sure how much legs it would have, but like they stayed really creative and resourceful with how much they included Kendo. And I don't know, it'd be neat to see something else. Like give me Kendo's cut of Resident Evil 3, please.
And to be clear, you're never playing as him.
Sometimes you do.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Made it sound like he was just like a recurring character in cutscenes.
So who is the main character of Resident Evil 2? Because I thought Resident Evil 2 was just Leon's story, but then I'd log on random times. It looked like you're playing as Claire and maybe some other woman.
Yeah. So Resident Evil 2 has two main characters. It's Leon, and then it's Leon and Claire. And there are like basically 4 kind of different campaigns depending on what order you play them in. So like if you play as like Claire first and then Leon, it's Claire A, Leon B, and then you can play as, you know, Leon B, Claire A. Or Leon A, Claire B, and it kind of changes up some of the stuff there. So they are like co-equal protagonists. Other women, like at one point as Leon, you play as Ada. At one point in Claire's campaign, you play as Sherry.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, and that's I don't know. That's Kendo's cut. It's goofy. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass to work because you have to like follow some very bad instructions to install a mod. It's kind of similar to when I did the randomizer mods, but like it's easier now that you can just like buy the base game off of GOG and then set it to download the Japanese version of it, which is what all the mods are made for, and then they're translated back by the mod. So like the instructions are out there. I just had to like dedicate a day to getting it to work.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Now you count that towards the time to beat, or no?
No, that's time to start. So, I mean, any questions about Kendo's cut or Kendo's cut uncut?
Sorry, I'm looking through the wiki. I didn't realize Sherry was a kid at this point.
Yeah. It takes place in it's 1998. Yeah.
Is she still the only voice of reason like she is in Resident Evil 6?
No, she's a scared little girl who's being pursued by her dad, who is a monster, who wants to impregnate her with a G-virus embryo thing. It's real fucked up. Yeah,
that is kind of messed up.
Yeah. That's how she gets the power she has in RE6.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's talk about the multiplayer games we played, because it was two new ones for me. But for the last 3 hours of the final shifts, everybody from the level, both of you, and then also Ben and Jala hopped on, and we played Human Fall Flat, and we played PIKO Park 2. Let's talk about Human Fall Flat first. I had no idea what this game was, aside from it's awkward to control. So I was a little bit surprised to find out that it is like a sandbox platformer game almost.
Ish, yeah.
Yeah.
It's got shades of Octodad.
Little bit.
In terms of just how jiggly the rigging is for your character. Like, you know, your character is only loosely walking or touching the ground related to how you're moving it. But also you need it to do very specific things to solve the puzzles, and therein lies the hilarity.
Yeah. Basically controlling like a walking sandbag. is a little bit what it feels like, and there's no story or anything. It is just you start out in a level. There's a door that you have to get to. Go. And we tried cooperating, but there was an awful lot of just like kind of going off and doing our own thing, with occasionally trying to ask other people to do stuff like, hey, stand there so I can raise you up. No, don't move. No, please stand at the center. You're going to fall off. Please. No.
So honestly, it was actually very similar to the two protagonists in a Resident Evil game, where you're mostly doing your own thing, but then every so often, someone else comes by and like needs to throw a switch for you or something.
Yeah.
I mean, Ben being the master of this game, apparently, we would just look up and he's like, "Hi, I'm on the roof over here," or know. Hey, I'm in the clock tower.
Yeah, if you guys are having trouble, I can just go through the door and we can advance to the next levels.
Ben was playing a different game than we were.
Yeah, I mean, clearly the standout feature of this, though, is the trebuchet.
It's not a trebuchet; it's a catapult. That worked by
we
virtue
weren't
of
playing
tension.
as cats, so trebuchet is much funnier.
There was no counterweight, Moxie. Okay.
I will die on this hill.
But no, that was definitely the way to go. I never figured out how to like calibrate it, specifically to not launch you as far as it can.
Yeah. That was it seemed to be a matter of just like it was a fixed launch, and so you had to put it was entirely in positioning the whole thing, versus how much you wound it or what have you.
Yes. But yeah, it was very fun to just, every time I launch someone, go check ignition and may God's love be with you. Just give you a little bit of Space Oddity.
Yep.
I'm just sad we didn't get to knock down that wall.
Yeah, we didn't knock down that wall. I really wanted to. There were boulders there and everything, but every boulder I launched went over the fucking wall.
And it's a wall that screams, "You can knock me down."
You can see light from in between the bricks.
I know.
Yeah.
Like, in old animation where like the stuff that's on the background panel versus the stuff that's going to move is different colors.
Yeah.
Even though it's supposed to be the same thing. Like this wall was that for the game.
No, it was crying out to be knocked over, and we just couldn't accomplish it. Because we were too busy yanking each other off of ledges and stuff.
Yes. there was a surprisingly small amount of like overtly hostile stuff. Like you couldn't quite throw someone.
No.
So any attempt to sabotage was as likely to just wind up in awkward hugging as anything else.
So have any of you guys played Gang Beasts?
No.
A long time ago.
This game is Gang Beasts came out at least a while before this, and this game very clearly inspired by it. And Gang Beasts is basically same physics engine and controls more or less, except that you're trying to like Super Smash Bros. Style like. You there is a punch button, I think, but basically it's a fighting game, but once you stun someone, you have to then like pick up their body and chuck them off the stage.
Okay.
However, like you're talking about, inevitably, since the stun is fairly short, that ends up with them like grabbing onto your arm and you like ending up with the ending of Die Hard where you're just like dangling over, the edge of the skyscraper or whatever.
Right.
But yes, very much that where it's much difficult to control.
Yeah, Gang Beasts was on the list because there's not very many games that allow 5 people to play at once. But Gang Beasts was on the list. But just when I saw that they were so similar, it was like, I want to do the one that's cooperative.
Oh,
Totally. Doing the fighting game didn't seem like it would give us the comedy we would get by trying and failing to cooperate.
No, totally agree.
Yeah, but it was fun. I like it. Did not expect it to be as sandboxy as that. Messing around with slides and zip lines and stuff like that. Made me feel bad that I didn't pull any sound clips from the zipline sketch of I Think You Should Leave for this. So bad on me, I guess.
One just design thing that I really appreciated while we were playing it that I feel like is worth mentioning is that when you fall off the edge of a level, instead of respawning in any kind of way that changes the position of your character, you just seamlessly fall until you fall into the same spot in the level below you, I guess.
Yeah, it's like Pac-Man physics, right?
Yeah, exactly. And just to have that happening seamlessly, with a bunch of other players, was kind of a fun little touch. So kudos to whoever thought to put that in there. That was cute.
Yes, a good way to lower the stakes too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. The other game we played was PIKO Park 2. This is a sequel to a game we streamed last year as part of Duckstream. Simple 2D platformer made for I think up to 8, or maybe like 10 people. Something like that. And like the challenges adapt depending on the number of people that you have there. Because pretty much everything requires every person who is there working in concert to solve these little puzzle platforming challenges. And there's a huge variety of them.
Each one is themed around kind of a unique mechanic to that section of puzzles.
Yes.
Yeah, and it does a really good job of, like, I feel like after playing it, you kind of have the idea in your head, like, oh yeah, there's like a small number of, things that are like, these are the verbs you have. But then if you actually think about it, like, there's actually just numerous one-off verbs that they'll just have in one level or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool that they managed to have a lot of GIFs, different random tricks they're doing, but still have the feel of being consistent.
Yes. And like all the little tricks vaguely have to do with manipulating other players. Like one that they throw in that was, a little bit finicky just because of when you could and couldn't fire it was like this, like this tractor beam ray that would draw people in. And like you had to, work with each other to figure out like, okay, well, I can hold on to the person in front of me and the person behind me can hold on to the person in front of me. And, we can all fit that way. We can all fit on this little platform. That's going to be moving, but very quickly and with a limited amount of time, we're going to have to all disengage our tractor beams and then turn around and then fire them in the right order so that we can get on the little platform facing the different direction when it comes back up.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think my favorite was the chain together like bungee cord thing where everyone's tied together and there's you can drag other people, that sort of thing, and there's it's not super like physics based, like this isn't some physics puzzle game, but there's things where say 2 people can maybe drag one person up, but one person maybe can't. But then they get into a whole bunch of things where like at first it's just like, oh, one person starts on the other side of gap, so everyone has to pull them over. And then it's like, oh, this time you're on a moving platform, but the thing you need to get is before, so you have to dangle someone below it.
Yes.
And then it's, oh, it's that, but there's things that'll kill you, so you have to take the middle person and dangle them and all stretch out so they're at the right height.
But then move consistently at that distance to get them, over the thing that's going to kill them. But then you have to like get closer and then move together to get them under something later on. Yeah.
I think something really fun about like the decisions they made is that they're not afraid to have one player put in the position of being completely at the mercy of the other players for a time. Like if you are the one being dangled, or if you're the one who just has to like ride on top of someone, you're not really doing anything, but you are enjoying watching someone else under the pressure of like, don't screw this up for all of us.
Yeah.
And I think that's fun in a way that you wouldn't get to if everyone always had an equal share in solving every puzzle.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Just like,
And
hey,
actually, I felt like one of the best examples of that was some of the weirder things they did with the shooter level. Like in particular, the variant where so the shooter stage, you're in these little spaceships, and it's kind of like the side-scrolling levels of Cup Boy.
yeah.
Except that then they do a variant where like half the players are in these little spaceships but have no guns.
Mm-hmm.
The other half have guns, but they're standing on top of the spaceships.
Yes.
So they can't really move around.
Nope. And also there is friendly fire. So if you fire at somebody in front of you,
because of course there is.
yeah, and if they get hit too many times and too short of a window, then they then they die, and everybody and then the entire stage has to start over. And like it was frustrating figuring it out, but like amazing to figure it out and then execute. And something that I think helps that is maybe a decision that would turn some people off, but the way that it randomizes rolls after every death. Right. So like when you talk about, well, sorry, bud, you're going to be bait. We're going to dangle you at the end of this lure. Like, okay, well, that's my role here. Then next time, we're in a different order on the elastic. Right. So now I need to learn how to do this, or maybe this time I'm flying and you're shooting. Whereas before it wasn't like that. Yeah.
And it has not exactly, again, this, in my opinion, this game is a master of having things that like aren't technically forced on you, but are naturally the way you play. There's almost with that a little bit of almost like a WarioWare feel, where it's not like, at the start of the level, you're in different roles. Everyone's like, all right, we're going to do this, this, and this. It's more like, all right, this time you're shooting, I'm flying, go!
Yes.
And again, it's a thing where it's not like it's a super fast game where it really enforces that. It's just kind of subtly the thing the game nudges you towards.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and it's not super fast. Like it's not like mega twitchy, but also it does require a great amount of precision.
Right. Exactly. Yes. My one criticism is I felt like some of the more precision things I felt like were maybe bumped up into like maybe your game isn't quite set up for this. Particularly the one with like the lights, where it would be things where it's like, oh, I'm overlapping the light I can't touch by like 2 pixels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but that was just wherever.
Yeah, it was just a level. We just had to get through it.
The thing I did really like from a design standpoint is I mentioned that, at least to me, even though there was a lot of random stuff, the game overall did feel like it had a very consistent kind of art style and feel and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
The one exception to that was the last level of the shooter course.
Oh, where, with the big boss thing?
Yeah, where all of a sudden you're just fighting a freaking spaceship with that's shooting missiles at you.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that was perfect. That was a perfect instance of like, this is the logical place of where you're going, and this is where we're going to selectively break the rules of like, all of a sudden this is more of an action game than it is a puzzle game because it's funny.
Yeah, but like it's taking okay, so it's action, but that core of cooperation is still there
Oh
because
yeah, totally.
because one person has a shield at the front of their at the front, and so like you need to like coordinate in formation to where like all right, the missiles are coming out, you know, you need to everybody line up, and then just on a second's notice, okay, scramble, but make sure you're not like behind somebody when you're shooting, and just naturally coming together with that kind of on the fly coordination is really satisfying.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I dig it. You know.
Yeah, I thought it was really well done. I'd be interested to look. I wonder if the people that made it, if they have any talks or anything, because this is one of them that I'd be interested to hear more about, you know, kind of their design philosophy and those sorts of things.
And also, like, you think about it. So if it's 8 players total, that is 7 different versions of the level that they need to put together, you know, in order to make sure that it works for all of them. That, I mean, you know, and then all of the different worlds, like the gimmick sets and then the stages inside of there. Like, yes, this looks like a kind of humble little stripped back pixel game, but like there's a huge amount of effort just in the math of that.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. I dig it. And it was fun. It was fun getting frustrated with y'all.
Yes. I think we got through what, maybe half of the levels available?
We got through one screen of 6 worlds, and I think there are 3. God. Yeah, so I think we're only like 1/3 of the way through.
Okay, wow. Yeah, so there's a lot more to this. And I have to imagine the stuff later in the game is even more insane than the stuff, excuse me, that we encountered.
I have to imagine, yeah.
So,
yes, totally.
Color me intrigued.
Yeah. But yeah, that's all that I've got. It was just getting ready for and then playing all of those. Let's see who wants to go next.
So I have something new.
Okay,
go for it.
So I've been playing the Withering Rooms.
Okay,
and this is a indie horror game, and it's funny if you are someone who is if you're one of those people that gets really annoyed with everything being described as like a Souls-like, you're going to hate the rhetoric around this game. Okay. Because it's a game that like every review says like, oh yeah, it's like, what if Metroidvania met Souls-like, met horror game? And that's not wrong, but that also is completely wrong.
Okay.
So the gameplay is it's a side scroller where you're effectively going through this like haunted mansion.
Okay.
And your main verbs are you have a dodge roll. You can do kind of a survival horror style stealth where you can duck into a cabinet if an enemy hasn't seen you yet and wait for them to walk by, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or you have melee and magic combat, and both the melee and magic are fairly clunky. You can, like I said, dodge roll some, but you do a fair amount of face tanking, honestly. Okay. So it's one of those things where it's ostensibly you could say it's Souls style combat maybe, but not really.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing that kind of gives it some of that feel is that it has a kind of a similar RPG level up system that's based on gathering items. But to get into kind of the plot here is you are a character in I think 14-year-old girl in turn of the century Wales who has been sent to a asylum, and it's very explicitly an asylum that is set up to be send your troublesome daughter / wife here.
Okay.
And the first night you have to sleep in the gatehouse of the asylum so that they can, assess whether you're dangerous or not, whether you're a threat or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, you wake up in kind of a dream world version of the asylum. And it's, kind of, is more or less, follows the same basic rooms and stuff like that of the mansion where this asylum is. However, because it's a dream world, there's, zombies and ghosts and stuff like that you're fighting. And then when you die, you just wake up again in the dream and all the rooms are shuffled around.
Yeah.
And this is very much canonical that it's not just that's the respawn mechanic. It's very much like
it's a nightmare. The space isn't logical. Yeah.
Well, and also though it's things where as you go on, you meet other people, and it's explicitly almost like a death loop type thing where there's things where it's in order to unlock this Resident Evil style puzzle, you need a human finger to just chop off my finger and then kill me, and then I'll just wake up.
Okay.
It's very much within the world, within the storyline, this is what's happening.
Okay.
And it's got some really interesting things with that. I would say one of the neat things with that is there's a big diversity of different weapons and builds you're making, because every time you die, you lose all of your items. So it's basically a roguelike.
Okay.
However, what I like about it is there's significant mechanics in terms of unlocking permanent progression. So, for example, the thing I was talking about with needing fingers and stuff, those are very explicitly throughout the levels. You'll occasionally find areas where you make a blood sacrifice, and you can then designate, for each one you do, you can designate one of your items that will then come back with you wherever you die.
Okay.
And similarly, this all of the actual equipment stays with you. So almost the equivalent of what was that survival horror dollhouse game you were playing recently, Kole?
Elisa?
Yeah. The equivalent of the different dresses and those are all permanent unlocks.
Okay.
It's also got some neat mechanics where there are various things you can do to make the game more challenging on yourself. But if you do that, things you lost in previous runs will start dropping as loot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you can actually, get back most of what you lost, which is cool. One of the other interesting mechanics I like is they sort of have, I guess, almost a inverse Dark Souls insight, or rather Bloodborne insight mechanic.
A reverse insight.
Well, but what I mean is when you use rather than spending insight, when you cast spells, you build up this stat that's called cursedness.
Okay.
And the more cursedness you have, the more you can see ghosts, the more you can, basically see things that were previously hidden, secret passages, stuff like that. But at the same time, the world around you switches from being kind of switches to being almost like the Rust world from Silent Hill.
Okay.
And so that's something that particularly if you're doing a magic playthrough, that's something you have to manage, because if it goes too high, you'll actually start dealing damage to yourself.
Okay.
So it's a really neat mechanic because, there's very explicit things. So like I am going with a magic build, and there's certain things where, like, depending on what I'm trying to do, I might need to keep my sanity, or whatever it's called, curseness, artificially high.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I agree that sanity is a curse.
Yes, it is. But then that means that if I get into combat, I don't have much headroom to cast very many spells.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so just a lot of interesting mechanics. One thing I'll say, if you give this a try, I definitely recommend it. So there's a short tutorial, kind of prelude, and then 4 acts. 2 things important to know: it will warn you before you go on to a future act, and you should make sure that you've searched through and tried to unlock everything you can and find all the secrets and that sort of thing. A lot of them you can go back in later acts and complete, but some of them you can't. And the other thing I'll say is, I would recommend, if you're going to give it a try, at least play through the end of Act 1.
Okay.
Because that's kind of the point where they reveal exactly what is going on with the dream and what the rules are for how things work in the dream.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of the game is them kind of riffing on that. And that, at least to me, is when, up to that point, the game's a good game, but is kind of a generic, like, Clock Tower-esque, wander through the area and get, stabbed to death by monsters.
Mm-hmm.
And it's after that point that you get into some of the interesting ideas of where they're going with the story.
Okay. Yeah. So this was put on my radar by listener and buddy Carl, who was kind of raving about it, saying, "Hey, this will be something that you would really, really enjoy." The roguelike nature of it was kind of scaring me off, but like, it sounds like it is not one of these things where you're running on a treadmill or doing like tethered swimming, where just like, yeah, no, you're expending a whole bunch of effort and getting nowhere, and you have nothing to show for it. Yeah.
The game is also very, very generous with consumables, because, it's assumed you're going to periodically be dying and losing them all.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's a significant degree to which, like, if you need something, you can't buy everything, but any given thing you need, you can just go buy.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah, no, I just I've got a copy of it. I think I picked it up on a sale or whatever. Is it so kind of running into a fish nor fowl thing where, like, I'm thinking, this is horror themed enough that maybe I could do some streaming of it. But also, is this more of a Souls-like thing with horror theming, or is it more of a horror game that happens to have some mechanics in common with Souls stuff?
Sure. So the thing I'd say is, as your sanity, or what, I'm just going to call it sanity, because cursedness is like the most awkward name ever. As your sanity gets lower or higher or whatever, the game starts messing with you.
Okay.
So you get some horror stuff in that where, like, you'll be walking and there'll be like silhouettes of people like sitting in the foreground, watching you, and just, all sorts of weird things. Walls start bleeding, all that sort of stuff. So there's some stuff with that. And then once you get to the second act where they reveal the story, I don't know that most of this game is exactly scary, but it definitely has a horror premise that they're going with. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's definitely a story that they're telling of like, oh, what if this creepy stuff happened this way? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
So I would say it's definitely a horror game.
Okay. Well, I'll probably poke around with it and see if it'll be a good fit rather than just streaming it blind. But it's good to hear that it has your vote of confidence for that.
Yep, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Anything else besides Withering Rooms?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Dennis, how about you?
Well, beyond the Duckfeed stuff or the Duckstream stuff, I have continued playing a ton of S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, Heart of Chernobyl.
Okay.
And man, sandbox game gonna sandbox. It continues to be very janky, but also just, I don't know, it just feels different than the other sandbox games out there. It feels less directed and more empty, which sounds like criticism. And yet the fact that you do feel so much like I can just go explore anywhere, and that the game, like the permission it feels to have these vast spaces, makes stumbling into something then feel that much more exciting.
Yeah.
Like those things are actually positives in terms of creating the experience that they're trying to create. And that's been the fun of the game. I said last week that I'm playing it basically as a geocaching game. Just, finding out where these hidden backpacks are supposed to be and going and exploring and grabbing the loot from them. I don't need the money anymore. I'm happy with the gear I have. But it's just, I don't know. It feels good to, find an abandoned house in a gully that you never would have seen otherwise. And then, find the hidden trapdoor into a cellar that has some mutants in it, but also a stash of stuff. It's just a really fun experience. So yeah, that's primarily the way I've continued to play it. And I think that's been reinforced by the fact that the main quest line has turned into a little bit almost of a comical series of like, oh, you thought I was the guy. No, you want this guy. And then you go get that guy and he's like, oh, you thought I was the guy. No, you want this guy. And it is, I mean, from the very beginning, every single person that you think is going to have for answers for you just passes the buck on to the next person in line.
It's a Shaggy Dog story.
It really, really is. And so, that serves to direct me into new areas of the map and the kind of big, interesting new stuff that the game is introducing is going to happen on those quest lines. So, still progressing through that, but man, is it more fun to just traipse around this map, than to follow the main quest lines, in terms of just discovering stuff.
Yeah.
Point of order.
Yes.
This is radiation zone. None of the dogs are Shaggy.
Yes.
But yeah, so like
cancerous dog story.
Oh, no, that's really sad. That can't be a title.
No.
Yeah, no, but like in reality, that's like the only purpose that the main quest or story needs to serve, right? Is to push you around the map and break you into different biomes, like just to give you a directed reason to to get there if you are not just pushing at boundaries naturally, right?
Absolutely. The definition of a sandbox game.
It's very much
very well.
There's that quote that's like, there's only two plots, hero leaves his village and a stranger arrives in town. Mm-hmm. And this is very much a game that has those two plots, but no one's quite sure which is which.
It oscillates wildly between them.
Yes. Yeah. Something I've really appreciated as I've explored a larger and larger swath of the map is how well placed each of like the town hubs are. And you don't always know that you're walking up to a new town. Like it's not always explicit of like, I feel like, traditional quest design is like, hey, if there's a big hub area that's going to have all the stuff you need, they're going to have a reason to send you there. And some of these towns I've just like stumbled in and be like, oh, thank God, I really needed a technician. And here we are. Okay, this is perfect. And each of these kind of becomes a launching point for a loop you do away from it and then back towards it, hitting objectives as you go. And, if you plan your route the right way, you are getting back to that hub right as the amount of things that you are carrying gets prohibitively heavy. And so those kind of mini loops that you're doing, then extended by a new hub that you find, are well designed. But they're still sparse enough that kind of setting out to a new area and not knowing where the town is a really harrowing experience. You're selling off everything that you don't absolutely need to be carrying. You get to, and Moxie, I'll be curious if you've played any more of this, if you have your number for each item. Like I know I want 6 pieces of bread and I want 6 sausages. I want 4 rad packs. I want 150 rounds of AK ammo, on and on and on. That each supply you kind of, I've kind of zeroed in on how light I can get starting along, counting on finding some as I'm going.
See, I kind of am going with the post-apocalyptic dystopia approach, where for me it's no food and as much ammo as I can possibly carry.
I'll make my own food.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I totally agree. And similarly with the artifacts, because those are pound for pound. Wow. Kind of item per item are some of the heaviest items you'll carry.
Yeah, I think you mean kilogram for kilogram.
Yes, exactly. I mean, this is Russia, so it could be like pood for pood, but
maybe.
Anyways. Well, no, this is Ukraine. Not Russia yet.
Give it a couple of years. We'll see.
Jesus.
I'm really sorry, this is a tangent, but I'm actually kind of surprised that they've gone away from, because I think in the original S.T.A.L.K.E.R, like, the military was the Russian military, wasn't it?
I can't recall.
I know, like, I was expecting, I was surprised that they didn't just, given, current, what's going on with the developer and the world, they didn't just have the military, who were almost always the bad guys, just be the Russian army.
And Freedom and Duty, I think, were the 2 main factions in the original game. And I don't know if Duty was explicitly coded as Russian, or if it was like, these are a bunch of... Oh, go ahead.
So in the original, Freedom and Duty were the 2 like independent factions, but then there was also a military faction.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, and I think both of those were explicitly, like, Duty had a lot of like military defectors and that sort of thing, but they were not actually officially military.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be. So this is alternate history. So it's not like this is the Russian army. This is like the Soviet forces. Probably.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, just a clarification on that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But you were saying you were surprised they were not more explicitly the Russians or what have you.
Yeah, just because like I said, current events.
Yeah. So, continued exploring in that, advancing the main quest, but having more fun, derping around in the world. And like I said, zeroing in my amounts. It's so interesting. There is a certain enemy that I've encountered, that I've just decided, like, I actually, now that I think about it, there's 2 of them. I've just made the decision of, like, I will not fight this. I'm not going to spend the time and ammunition and health packs and everything. I'm always going to run away from this enemy. And so far, I have never been put in a situation where I have to fight it to survive.
So what are the enemies?
It is the Poltergeist that you talked about last week. Now that I know what the hell it is, F that. And then it is, I don't know the name for it, but there's an enemy that just has like psychic powers to raise up all the weapons around you to fire at you, like if there's loot on the ground. Then also can rip weapons out of your hand.
Oh yeah,
like
that's
psychic-
it's like Burr or something. I don't know how it's pronounced, but yeah. It's like Buerer or something like that.
I've never seen it referenced in the game and haven't read enough wiki stuff to know. But it's just one of those moments where when I realize that is in the area, just being like, bug out. Okay, I'm done. And so far the game has respected that decision. And I'm sure there's stuff, rewards I could have by taking them on and actually clearing every area. But the game being willing to be like, you don't want to fight it, then yeah, find another way. And that's cool. Is nice. And it kind of makes a cooler atmosphere to have this boogeyman that, is just like the answer to the fight or flight question is decisively flight, and have that respected by the game.
Yeah.
That's S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2. I have one last thing that's almost more of a PSA than, talking about my time playing. Cause RoboQuest, the perennial, arena shooter style, robo game, FPS, that I come back to, released an endless mode.
Okay.
And this is a very cool idea. The game is kind of broken into runs as it is, and has a definitive end. And so when you kind of are able to create that broken build, that, easily defeats the final boss, it's like, I want to keep on playing with this. What do I do? Well, now they have endless mode, which is essentially all killer, no filler. So you jump in and the difficulty is ratcheted up from the start. Your experience gain so that you can start choosing, abilities and perks and all this stuff is ramped up. And it just goes and goes and goes until you drop, as the name suggests. Instead of having kind of a bespoke set of levels that you progress through, it's a random selection of the different biomes, and every other biome ends with a boss fight where instead of one boss in the arena, they just cram in two.
Okay.
Which is hilarious because the arenas don't get any bigger.
And the bosses are big, right?
The bosses are big and they are tanky and they are meant to be difficult all on their own.
Can they hit each other?
No. There's no friendly fire on their side. And so, just the one boss is an absolute madhouse. The two in the room, I think I've only, out of probably 5-ish runs, I've only cleared one boss fight. That's how difficult it is. I think at the moment it's probably a little bit overtuned, or I don't know if overtuned is the right way to say it, but it's a little bit too difficult. Because the promise of endless mode is to be able to go for longer than the main campaign. But the difficulty ramp up in the campaign is a lot more conducive to creating a build and trying out stuff and kind of finding your groove. Whereas in this, it feels like, okay, in the first, couple of weapons I find, the first couple of perks that I earn, it needs to create something that's kind of broken off the bat. Otherwise, I'm just not going to survive to be able to create something broken. So we'll see if they tune that back, but it's a natural outflow of just kind of what's fun about the game, rampaging through areas and defeating other robots. It's cool to see them just continually updating this with cool new features and entire new modes. So kudos RoboQuest team.
So it's made for the sickos, but it is tuned a little bit too sicko.
Yeah, I guess so. We'll see.
10% less sicko.
10% less sicko would I think be right. And I'm trying to judge it in relation to the main campaign. I guess it's in my mind, endless mode, I want the difficulty ramp of the campaign, but it just doesn't stop. Whereas this one is hey, let's start you halfway up that ramp to begin, and go from there. But yeah, so that is a game that is near and dear to my heart. I check in on that every now and again, and they continue to give me good reasons to do so.
Awesome.
multiplayer.
Now it is time for the multiplayer, where we ask you a question and you answer it. Dennis, what is the question that you ask the nice people?
Yeah, we're recording this in that awkward time right before the Game Awards. So as you are listening to this, there is infinitely more interesting stuff to be considering that we'll talk about in the next episode. But yeah, as we're giving out awards and doing that, I thought it would be fun to introduce a new award category. So if you could create a new award category for 2024, what would you create, and which game would be the first recipient?
Let's see here. Peter writes, I'm tired of all these awards being for the best of category. I'd like to see a worst of category, like worst sequel games of 2024. I'm not sure if I have a recipient, but I really want to see the awards announcers have, I want to see the awards announcers have to talk about some terrible games. Just had an idea though, and I hate blending politics and gaming, but worst game of 2024, the presidential election. Alternatively,
unfortunately, also worst sequel.
Jesus. Alternatively, let's also go off the wall and say largest simultaneously supported online multiplayer game. And we have to look at the statistics of just what the maximum number of online players was at any given time. My heart says Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree, but my brain says it might be StarCraft. That would actually probably be something along the lines of like that Monopoly Go game or whatever, or maybe a Genshin Impact or something. But like whenever you start getting into like most players or whatever, things start shading in that direction pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The worst thing, like there's no video game version of the Razzies, and that's probably good or fine at the very least.
I think I'd love to see it modeled on was it the Ig Nobel Prize? So do it for people that made real quality things, but just with very baffling priorities.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Because we live in hell, all I can see is it being used as a means of harassment. So it's like, I don't know. Maybe not in the same event, or maybe it could be like a smaller publication that hits that. I don't know.
Yeah, I can see that.
Let's see. Moxie, what does Austin say?
Austin says, I want a category for best cat in game. Encourage these coward game companies to war over who makes the best cat for us to pet.
Yeah.
Can you pet the dog?
Yeah.
I feel like the problem here, this immediately comes to, do the cat boys from Final Fantasy Online count?
I don't know.
Might be
an asterisk situation. You know, like, oh, you can win, but like there's going to be a mark here that says,
okay.
I
mean, what are cat boys for if not for petting?
I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Live for pets, die for pets.
I don't know what the best cat of 2024 would be, but 2023 would absolutely be Grub, Yenna's cat from Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah.
I think my long-term answer would be Slug Cat from Rain World.
Okay. So many good cats. See, the secret is every cat is good.
Mm-hmm. What's the Void Cat from Gravity Rush?
I can't.
Oh yeah,
does that get a name?
I don't know.
I'm sure this is a good award idea.
Dennis, what does David say?
David says, "Game of the year, despite not coming out this year, for games that got continued support and fixes in the years after it comes out." This is just an excuse for Baldur's Gate 3 to get more awards. Yes. Honestly, just have them sweep all the awards this year anyway.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Threnza writes, the 2024 award for game most likely to require an open Excel spreadsheet goes to Satisfactory. I mean, most likely to require... I mean, like, yes, there is that, but also requires the most intricate spreadsheets. I don't know.
No surprises at Satisfactory one. I had the results all modeled out here in my spreadsheet.
Yeah. Satisfactory was more of a notebook game for me because that was more about like ratios and steps.
And my big spreadsheet game was Darkest Dungeon. For like, what of each type of item do you need to pack for which length of which zone?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Let's see. And then finally here, Moxie, what does Lance say?
Lance says, best game to distract yourself from the coming apocalypse goes to Dyson Sphere Project.
Oh, yeah. Shows you that eventually things might get better after we're long dead.
Yeah, I think I would go with steering into the skid and go with Cataclysm, Dark Days Ahead, or like Caves of Cud.
Oh, yeah. Well, that got a 1.0 release here, so it could probably qualify.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see. My answer, because I think Game Awards, so specifically the Game Awards, are kind of silly, would be the best game of the year 3 years ago. Because so often the winner just kind of feels like it's whatever was the biggest game of that year, you know. Sometimes they get it right, like Baldur's Gate 3 for 2023 feels pretty close to me, but like, you know, so if it was like 3 years ago, 2023, 2022, 2021, like It Takes Two winning for that feels fucking wild to me, right?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what I would say like takes the top spot of the like nominated ones, but like, man, if you look at like the game that has like aged the best appreciably since then, you know, or like doesn't have the recency, the kind of the recency bias on it of just like, oh yeah, this is the big game from this year. Like some little known, like lesser known game that came out in 2021 would absolutely, I think, eat It Takes Two's lunch. With a little bit of distance and a little bit of looking backwards.
Yeah, I didn't even know It Takes Two was the thing.
Yeah, we've talked about it quite a bit.
The awards season cycle being locked to a year just because that's what movies do is such a detriment, because inherently video games, like, it just takes a little bit more time to fully enjoy them first off, but then also just fully see what they become.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like there's also things like Caves of Cud, where I think it's been in like early access for 10 years, something like that.
Right.
Or
like
a release
Dwarf
is not a
Fortress.
thing anymore.
But like looking back, you know, thinking about just 2021, there's It Takes Two, which I'm convinced just won because of the developer's relationship with the Jeff Keighley and what have you. But
It's
like
his show; he can do what he wants to.
Yeah,
Damn it.
and he will. But like even just like from other Game of the Year award winners, or you know, there's like Inscription, Returnal, Monster Hunter Rise. Like the Deathloop, Forza Horizon 5. Like there's some really good games.
So I think my thing would be, one, I don't think the game should have to come out that year. I think it should be, you know, the game for that year, not the game that came out that year. And I think it should not necessarily be which is the best game or whatever. It should be, you know, kind of which game was in the zeitgeist. So like, you know, from that year, at least from the ones you said, like, I think it would have to be Inscription, because like that was the one that people were talking about.
Yeah.
So you're looking for like the most 2021 game of 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah, my one for this year would probably be like Helldivers, not because I necessarily think it's the best game, but because it seems like it's the game that, like, you know, everyone was playing and, you know, everyone had a opinion on and all that sort of thing.
Right. Just kind of most of the time or something like that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's my answer. Didn't mean for it to get complicated. Moxie, how about you?
Oh no, that's mine. Is I would want
most of the year.
Game for the year, not necessarily game made this year.
Okay. Then Dennis,
I won game for the year. You mean game of the year? No, game for the year.
Dennis, round us out.
Yeah, I mean, leaning into the times, I would have a most egregious use of AI in a game, inspired by the recent paid Call of Duty DLC packs that contained AI generated art, complete with nonsensical fingers. So
Fun.
whoops, someone did not count fingers when they generated the art that they were selling with AI.
Fucking lazy. I hate it so much.
Put them on blast.
Yeah. Terrible. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for putting that question up, Dennis, and thank you so much to the folks who responded. If you want to participate, you can head on over to the Duckfeed community Facebook group and watch for the prompts to go up on Monday afternoons. The end boss. Now it is time for the end boss, where we talk about things that are happening in the world of video games around us and how we feel about them. Dennis, what is the story that is just everywhere?
Yeah, and I'm sure this will have evolved 6 times from now until people listen to the podcast, so forgive that. But the dominating the news cycle right now is the person who shot the United Healthcare CEO on the street and got away for a little bit, then was caught, and then was sensationalized by the media. In a way that, of course, drug video games in the silliest way possible. NBC reporting on, I guess they found someone that was in a Discord with this guy at some point, and made an entire story around. Yeah, he played this assassination video game with his friends. Yeah, the game Among Us.
Yup.
Which, look, we live in the clickbait world. I understand, but you cannot get that far off base when you're reporting. It's just ridiculous. So
on the other hand, I think we've all had those people we know that are a little too good at Among Us.
It's Ben. He's not on the call, so you can say it. It's Ben.
Oh gosh. I forget what the actual, the original quote was, but they called it a space assassination game. Like it was literally trying to train you into do the, to become a cold-blooded killer.
He once belonged to a group of Ivy League gamers who played assassins.
See, it's
in
funny
the game
to me
called
because I'm used to Assassins being the game you play where everyone gets a name from a hat. And then, during the course of the school day, at a college, you then, shoot someone with a Nerf gun or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or, we played because, we don't like getting shot by cops.
Mm-hmm.
You had to, hit them with a sock.
But
yeah, I assume that's what they mean by assassins, but it's oh no, it's even stupider.
Yeah. A group of Ivy League gamers who played assassins. Just all of the dog whistle in that. Ivy League gamers. These pro leftists who can afford the tens of thousands of dollars per quarter. In the game called Among Us, some players are secretly assigned to be killers in space who perform other tasks while trying to avoid suspicion from other players. It's shame on NBC for just taking the laziest possible stance on this, which is yes, it is the violent video games that are the problem or something.
Yeah, my God. Yeah. And I went to the actual article being nobody can be this dumb, and buried, 6 paragraphs down is and it is a pretty cartoony game.
Yeah. It's trying to be sensational. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know where to get news anymore, guys. I don't know.
It's fucking
what
rough
to do to stay informed.
Yeah.
But anyway, as we spiral towards the dissolution of the country, we can at least have some laughs at Among Us being portrayed as an assassin trainer.
Yeah. My favorite take I've seen is people just talking about imagine if he had been a Yakuza fan.
Or Saints Row.
Yep.
United Healthcare CEO beat to death with a dildo.
So this is funny and also just like a news organization showing their whole ass. Not just not doing any kind of, I don't know, for themselves, figuring out a context. Like there's no incentive for them to like accurately talk about what a cartoony game that Among Us is. That is more just like testing who can lie the best than anything. Regardless, but like this is something that's kind of coming back and has been for a while, not just in the shadow of like school shootings when people are trying to find a way to talk about anything else besides, guns, or what we might do to reduce alienation of people in American society. Like just, we need to talk about the games because that's an easy boogeyman kind of thing or whatever. Like Donald Trump, like I think like the night before the election, just when he was putting out all of those like little vlogs of him, reading text off of his webpage or whatever, like one of the things he talked about was finding ways to ban violent video games. Which is not me saying like, oh no, he's going to come and take our games away. I don't think that's gonna be the case. It is just very funny that is something that did not catch any traction with extremely online young men. Who were the primary voting block for him, that it's like, wait a minute, this is out of touch. Like this is actually bad. Like gamer is a political identity for us. Like, why would you do this? It's just very strange that nothing was made of that, while simultaneously Elon Musk, right around the time of the election as well, has been among, with his drive to also buy Hasbro and unwoke Dungeons and Dragons and make games using entirely AI, just like coming out and saying we need to make gaming great again or something like that. It's like incoherent, I guess, is what it is. And I shouldn't be angry or surprised that they're incoherent because that's their whole deal. But yeah.
Did you see that Elon Musk is now the top rated Diablo 4 player in the world?
Yeah, he should probably do more of that. He should probably spend all of his time doing that, I think.
Really, he should follow his passions. I would love if he would follow his passions along those lines.
Yeah.
It's got to be some, human intelligence task mule for his account, right?
Or it's maybe interns or whatever. Yeah, I'd rather him do that than like work with senators to make KOSA, which is going up for a vote again, by the way, make KOSA like even more targeted against making being trans illegal. Yeah.
What's KOSA?
KOSA is another one of these we need to protect kids on the internet bills that says it's all about trying to stop exploitation of children online, but in reality is a way to put blanket bans on any kind of queer expression, because anybody who is just outwardly queer could be seen as a groomer spreading an ideology that is against the state. So
I mean, Alabama already banned porn, so.
Yeah, and it's weird that that's not a bigger issue for people, but I don't know.
It's hotter if it's illegal.
We live in hell, is what it is.
Someone give us a new story to talk about.
Yeah, I've got one, just because I'm on the Tetris beat. I was kind of surprised to see that in addition to having that Tetris, Tetris Forever game, the interactive museum, kind of right around the same time right after that came out, the NES version of Tetris is getting a re-release for the first time ever. The NES version of Tetris was never on any virtual consoles. It was never ported to anything else. It just kind of lived on the NES. And for a multitude of reasons, the NES version became like the official version for competitive Tetris play. Like when you go to the Portland Retro Game Expo or any other retro game expo, but Portland has like the final championships of it or whatever, it is all people playing the NES Tetris. Finally now, that is coming to the Switch Online service on the on
of
the
all
12th.
the places. I mean, I guess it's still Nintendo, so that makes sense. But
yeah.
Huh.
But yes, it's going to be put on their library of emulated NES games, which is pretty cool. to be able to play that one. I don't even think like strictly the NES version is available on that Tetris Forever game. It's talked about, but it is not included as playable. It's like a micro PC version that is very similar to it.
Okay. This is the unqualified preservation win.
Yeah.
No notes.
That's good. I don't know if practicing it with it will like get you prepared to play competitively. I think that there are like hardware vagaries that they might rely on in order to that might make emulated versions not work. But it's cool. It's good to see kind of one of the more popular versions of Tetris get out there. The Game Boy version was on the Game Boy library for Switch Online, though. So
that's the one I cut my teeth on.
Yes, same. Yeah. And Moxie, you don't have a story, right?
Nope. I'm protesting against stories.
Okay. Coming out against stories hard. Well, how do we all feel about bundling it up?
Could you just skip the stories of a CEO's podcast instead of ours, though?
Oh, well,
how do you feel about bundling it up?
Buttons.
The credits.
That's funny. Greta heard me wrapping up and immediately came up to start rubbing on my ankle.
Cats are smart.
It's my cat. Yeah. So thank you so much for listening to level number 525. If you tuned in and if you gave during Duckstream, any of those 48 hours, we are so grateful. It was a great event, and we are looking forward to doing even more of that kind of stuff as shit gets more dire. You know what to do to help out this show. Dennis, I will say I should have the list of titles for you to put up for next week. We're going to have to do the results after we come back.
Yeah, yearly awards are dumb and bad, and our award ceremony should be up shortly for you to vote on.
It should. I didn't say they're dumb and bad. I just said they're a little bit silly, especially the Game Awards.
Yeah.
But yes, look for that to go up next week, and we will vote because of the way that the Tuesdays, like the recordings, are going to work. We're going to be off for 2 weeks at the end of December because one recording day would be Christmas Eve and the other would be New Year's Eve, and I don't think any of us want to do that. So one more episode next week to wrap up for the year. Is there anything that I'm forgetting?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Stay safe, everyone.
Yes. I have been Kole Ross. You can find me at Kole Ross on Blue Sky.
I'm Dennis Furia. You can find me at Furia Games.
I'm Moxie. You cannot find me being a ninja.
All right. And stick around for some titles. I only have one. I have Tuned a Little Too Sicko.
That's pretty good.
Not bad.
Okay.
I had 3, although the first one had kind of 2 forms, either Toddler on Fire or Toddler Fire Index. How would you? I
would like Toddler Fire Index.
Okay, so Toddler Fire Index for the first one. That I had, That's Too Sad, It Can't Be the Title. And that I have, It's Hotter If It's Illegal.
Oh, no. Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah, that is... No, we're not going to make that the title.
I did write that one down as well.
Okay. All right.
But I have a suitable alternative. Not that any of the ones before weren't. I also wrote down RoboCop Pincer Attack.
That's pretty good.
I think I like RoboCop Pincer Attack.
Yeah, I can support that. And it ties back into Duckstream, which is nice.
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, it is decided.